Hi, and welcome to Game and Read.
Today we are going to talk about knights. The fighting knights, not the day-night knights. Day-night.
Night days.
Peter read Sir Gawain in The Green Knight by an unknown author, but translated from Middle English by Simon Armitage. And I played Shovel Knight by Yacht Club Games. It came out in 2014.
Truly, these are the days of our nights. Anyway, I read Sir Gawain in the Green Knight, translated by Simon Armitage. It is a 14th century text that is Canterbury Tales era, Geoffrey Chaucer and all that. Not written by him, but possibly a contemporary seems to be a possibility there. And it's a interesting story. It is a Arthurian, had trouble saying this last time, Arthurian tale about Sir Gawain, one of the knights of the Round Table of King Arthur. And on Christmas Day, they are plagued by this mysterious visitor who is a large man, entirely green, including his horse.
And his skin is green, and his hair is green. It's not like he's wearing a green outfit. No.
Yeah.
He's like jolly
He's
green
like
giant.
Ghosts in the third Lord of the Rings movie, green. Exactly. Anyway, he challenges one of the men, just anyone who's willing to take up the challenge, to a very distinct wager. And I don't know how betting worked back then, but it seems to be a lot of, I bet I can cut your head off better than you can cut off mine, because that's basically what the wager is. And so Sir Gawain steps up, trying to, not make King Arthur do it because he's noble and chivalrous and all that. And he...
Also, King Arthur is his uncle.
Yes.
So there's like this family thing where he's like,
and Sir Gawain's also the youngest, so he's got to prove himself worthy of being, a knight.
And no one else is stepping up because everyone else is scared.
So he takes the axe, lops off this guy's head, but the guy doesn't die. He stands up, picks up his head, headless horseman style, and is like, ha ha ha, I'm gonna see you in a year and I'm gonna cut off your head.
Dun dun!
Which is a little bit of a crazy thing. So the next year goes by, Sir Gawain, right around what we would call Thanksgiving time, they obviously don't have it, starts setting out to find this mysterious Green Knight to fulfill his part of the deal. He has to go let him cut off his head, which doesn't make a whole lot of sense, but it's all about chivalry and nobility and being a knight. You are a man of your word. You will follow these weird challenges for the sake of doing them. It's very romantic in that literary sense. And so he goes off to this strange kingdom and meets some weird lords and ladies who are challenging him in very seductive ways. And
he is tempted in every sense of tempted.
Yes, through another strange wager, and eventually he faces the Green Knight. I won't tell you what happens in case you want to read it and don't want it to just be a weird old poem.
Spoilers from 1,000 years ago.
That's 600.
750-ish.
Point is, not 1,000. Anyway, it's an interesting text. This is the first time I've read something in Middle English translation for fun. The only other thing I've read like this was Canterbury Tales, and that was in high school for class. So I've never really approached this kind of an old text just for my own readership. And I gotta say, I actually really enjoy doing it. It made me feel smarter, which I guess is one reason to do things. However, it was also interesting to see kind of this very basic story, and you would kind of expect a story written down from that long ago to be very blah, blah, blah. But there's a lot of flavor added to it. There's one point where they're just kind of describing for a couple of pages, or several stanzas, how they slaughtered animals they hunted. Didn't seem to need to be there for the story's sake, but I was like, oh, he's going into detail about how you broke down an elk or whatever, a stag. So that was actually pretty interesting. It definitely was a good translation overall. There were a few points. Armitage seemed to use terms that just felt a little too modern. I know it's supposed to be readable by anyone nowadays, but at certain times it just didn't have the right amount of oldiness.
And of course you can't compare because Old English is weird. Or Middle English is weird.
Yeah, so I looked over in the other page, I'm like, himba doomba doomba. that looks German. That looks just like too many M's, lots of Y's.
Lots of W's.
Yeah. So I wasn't going to try and read the Middle English, so I had to rely on this translation. The translation made the story make sense overall, and it was pretty enjoyable. I would give it 3 stars out of just general enjoyability. I don't think my rating really matters when you get down to classic historical texts of our language, but if you're just looking for, like, I enjoyed it. Was it the best thing? No. Did I think I benefited from it? Yes. So I do recommend it, and now let's talk about something I can much better context for, video games.
So I played Shovel Knight, and you are a knight who is Shovel Knight. You have a shovel instead of a sword.
It's your whole identity.
Your identity is Shovel Knight, and you are on a quest to presumably go save your lover, Shield Knight.
From the Enchantress.
From the Enchantress. And to do this, you have to defeat all these other knights. You go into their castles, yes, and you go through the castles, and you defeat the knights on your way to the Tower of Fate to get to the Enchantress.
They are members of the Order of No Quarter.
That
is their official...
of No Quarter.
They're their own round table of duplicity. They are not good, almost inherently.
And they want Shovel Knight to join them. They keep telling him, come join us. And he says, no, I am on this quest. So I wanted to like this game because I know it is one of Peter's favorite games. But I hated it. I didn't hate it. I did not enjoy it. I love...
Don't overqualify
the story. I love the story. I think it's such a cool story in this video game. Some of the games we've played before don't always have that much of a story. And I really felt like Shovel Knight had a really nice, fleshed out story for a short game.
Definitely the right amount for what it is.
Yeah, and it was fun. I got us into the story, and I think that the aesthetic is really cool. I love how each of the 8 main knights have their own castles, and they're very distinct, and the style is 8-bit.
Yeah, it's 8-bit-esque.
8-bit-esque, but it's really colorful, and it doesn't feel simple.
Yes.
It's a really cool style.
It's much more complex than they would have been able to do on the NES. However, it takes its aesthetic from a high-end NES, maybe a low-end SNES, just based on how big the sprites are.
So, unfortunately, the gameplay just killed me. I mean, literally. I struggled so much trying to play this game and complete the levels, and I would go 2 steps forward and 1, sometimes 2 steps back. It was a lot of dying. Every time you die, you lose money. If you hadn't checked in like a checkpoint, because they have checkpoints at the levels, you just went back to your last checkpoint. So you had to repeat everything up to the point where you died and keep going. There were multiple times where I could see the next checkpoint and I would die. And it'd throw me all the way back. And I just got so mad. It was really difficult. I succeeded in defeating 6 of the 8 main stages. So I made progress in the game, but by the end of my time playing, I did not finish this game. It had stopped being fun, which is really sad.
Yes, so Aaron did watch the ending just for the sake of knowing what happened so that we could discuss it. But yeah, it is a difficult game, and I will counter saying that I really love this game because for me, personally, it was the right amount of difficulty. Like, everything was just challenging enough that sometimes I would die a lot, but I always felt like once I overcame it, it was just more enjoyable than it was tedious by a large margin for me. Now, Aaron may have benefited some from having some sort of difficulty setting, which Shovel Knight does not have.
I would have played it. I probably wouldn't have reset it to easy until like halfway through. Like, I was doing a pretty good job. And then, especially the last 2 I completed and then the 2 that I tried, it was a disaster. Yeah. There was lots of emotions, and none of them were positive.
Yes, and while Shovel Knight definitely takes itself into this realm of like Mega Man and Metroid games where they're supposed to be fairly tough and make you really learn how to do it, it could, since it is also a modern game, I think it could have benefited from a couple of more modern takes on things like difficulty settings, and that could go up and down. It could be more difficult or less difficult, and that could certainly make it more playable to a wider range. Some people may disagree with that if they're really into intense games, but it's all about personal preference in my opinion.
So for story and style, 5 out of 5. I really liked the story idea. I really liked the style. But for gameplay, it's got to be a 1. Wah, wah.
I would give it at least a 3 or a 4 for gameplay. It really has some of those mechanics very tight. It's just hard to get around some of the challenges. You really have to know what's coming or how to handle what's going to happen. But that's the way it goes.
So, on to putting Shovel Knight and Sir Gawain together. Do you think they make a good pairing?
I think they fit together fairly well.
I agree.
Yeah, definitely they fit together well in the literal sense, in that they are both distinctly about knights who are on quests, are chivalrous.
The medieval knight.
Yes, they are both medieval knights. Shovel Knight being somewhat comical, Sir Gawain obviously being more genuine because it's more in that time period as well. Mm-hmm. But they definitely fit together just in that literal sense.
Mm-hmm. And story-wise, they fit together pretty well too.
Yeah.
There are definitely some aspects that make them really good pairs.
A very good pairing.
A very good pairing. So one thing that stuck out is that both the book and the game make good use of dramatic irony. There are characters that you meet during the game that you find out later have kind of their identity is hidden, and you find out their true identity at the end. It's this twist, and it turns out that their true identity, you've met them in their true identity before, you just didn't realize it, or maybe you did.
And there's some foreshadowing, there's a bit of the irony of you may have some information the characters may not.
But both the game and the book use dramatic irony, I think, in really clever ways of taking this, key figure in both cases, and both of their identities are important to the story, and they're key figures in both of the identities that you see them as, but then they've got the twist and you realize they're the same person. And I really enjoyed that part, both in the game and the book, a lot. I thought that was a really nice twist, and I really wasn't expecting that from Sir Gawain and the Green Knight.
Much more complex than I thought it would be as well.
Because it is an older story, and I just wasn't expecting that nice of a twist in the book.
Everybody was stupid back then. They couldn't write a story. What are you talking about?
And then when I watched the end of Shovel Knight and it had the same kind of twist, it was really great. I was like, oh, that happened in Sir Gawain. That's really cool. I like that. So that's one aspect that makes them fit together pretty well, I think.
Yeah, and while Sir Gawain doesn't really deal with a lot of hand-to-hand combat fighting and all that, they reference it some. He's supposed to be a very talented warrior. They talk about some on his journey that he is, fighting off wild animals, that there might be giants around, but they don't really deal with the combat so much. It's more about the thought behind it, as well as the inherent romanticism of standing up to this challenge, even though he's a bit of a goner going up against this Green Knight who's planning on beheading him.
And, in Shovel Knight, all the knights and the Black Knight, who is not part of the Order of No Quarter, anyway.
He's just a black armor version of Shovel Knight, basically.
But they warn Shovel Knight. They're basically like, you stand no chance against the Enchantress. Even at the end, when you're getting ready to face her, all of the knights are like, there's no way
and
that
you have to fight all of them again.
You can meet with a mere mortal. Mere mortal can beat her. So Shovel Knight also has this aspect of a seemingly useless adventure.
Yeah.
I guess you think you're pretty there's a lot of clues that are pointing to it failing.
But you got to do it anyway. Righteous chivalry.
For knight.
Yeah, knighthood. Anyway, they do pair together pretty well. I would recommend both of these things to certain amounts of people. Shovel Knight's available on literally every platform. As long as you have a computer that functions and can use Steam, I'm pretty sure you can play Shovel Knight. Or if you have any modernish console, it's on all of them for like $15.
And there are multiple versions of Sir Gawain and the Green Knight.
That's true.
Translations have been done by Simon Armitage, which is who we read, but also J.R.R. Tolkien did.
And a lot of other people in between there,
and
according
a lot
to
of other
the internet.
A lot of other authors and translators have translated the work. So if you are interested in reading modern English versions of Middle English stories, there's lots of options.
Yeah, learn some of the roots of romanticism that really go into a lot of the, the fantasy stories that can be very popular.
So that's all we have for today. You can watch all our videos and see all of our other posts over at gameandread.com.
You can also check us out on Twitter. My handle is @nerdintheworld.
And you can find me at emerch.
Thanks for watching.
We'll see you next time.